They mocked Earth at the Council. By dawn, humanity's war fleet's gone, as if they never existed. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the Grand Council of the Galactic Federation, her hands clasped behind her back, as waves of mocking laughter echoed through the crystalline chamber. The sound bounced off the towering walls where representatives from 47 different species sat in their elevated seats, looking down at the lone human figure in the center. "You speak of territorial rights," sneered Chancellor Vextar of the Hegemony, his multiple eyes gleaming with amusement. "But what could a species barely 2 centuries into space travel possibly understand about galactic politics?" The Zephyrian delegate's metallic voice rang out next. "Earth's entire military consists of primitive chemical rockets and basic energy weapons. They are children playing with toys while we command the stars." Sarah remained silent, her dark eyes taking in each speaker. She had expected this reception when the Federation called for the emergency session regarding humanity's expansion into the Outer Rim territories. What she hadn't expected was the sheer contempt in their voices. High Counselor Threnix, an ancient being whose species had ruled space lanes for millennia, raised one of his 6 arms for silence. "The human delegation has requested recognition of their claims to 17 star systems in Sector 7749. This is frankly laughable. These systems contain valuable quantum crystals and rare elements. They are far too important to be left in the hands of such a young civilization." More laughter rippled through the assembly. The Corvin representative actually slapped his knee with his massive claw. "Perhaps we should give them a nice little moon somewhere to play on instead." Sarah finally spoke, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber despite its quiet tone. "Earth respectfully maintains its claim to these systems. Our survey teams discovered them. Our colonists have already established preliminary settlements. Under Federation law—" "Federation law!" interrupted Admiral Zektos of the Draconian Empire, his serpentine head weaving with mirth. "You quote laws written by civilizations that were crossing the galaxy while your ancestors were still hitting rocks together. We have been patient with Earth's expansion, allowing you to settle a few barren worlds here and there. But this is beyond your capabilities." The Hegemony Chancellor leaned forward in his seat. "Let me make this simple for you, Ambassador. The Hegemony has 300,000 warships. The Draconian Empire commands nearly 500,000. The Zephyrian Collective's automated fleets number in the millions. Even the smallest member species of this council possesses more firepower than your entire planet could hope to muster. Earth's total naval capacity is what?" The Corvin delegate pretended to check his data pad. "Ah, yes, approximately 12,000 vessels. Most of them glorified cargo haulers with weapons bolted onto the hull. How exactly do you propose to defend 17 star systems with that pathetic force?" Sarah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Earth's defensive capabilities may surprise you." This statement caused the loudest burst of laughter yet. The crystalline chamber actually rang like a bell from the combined mirth of dozens of alien species. "Surprise us?" wheezed Chancellor Vextar. "Dear Ambassador, we have detailed intelligence on every ship in your fleet. We know their capabilities down to the last bolt. There are no surprises." Admiral Zektos nodded agreement. "Our military analysts have run the simulations. In a hypothetical conflict, Earth's entire naval force would last approximately 17 minutes against any single major fleet in this chamber. And that's being generous." The Zephyrian delegate's optical sensors focused on Sarah with what passed for pity among his kind. Perhaps it would be best if Earth simply withdrew its claim. "We are not unreasonable. The Federation could grant you mining rights in the systems, under our supervision, of course." "Generous terms," agreed High Counselor Threnix. "Far more than a species of your limited capabilities deserves." Sarah looked around the chamber one final time. Every face, from the insectoid hive queens to the energy beings of the celestial concordat, wore expressions ranging from condescension to outright mockery. She had come here hoping for fair treatment under Federation law. Instead, she had found exactly what Earth's intelligence services had warned her to expect. "I see," she said quietly. "So the Federation's position is that might makes right. That our legal claims are meaningless because we lack the military power to enforce them." "Now you're beginning to understand galactic politics," chuckled the Corvin delegate. "It's not personal, Ambassador. It's simply reality. The strong rule, the weak serve. This is the way of things." High Counselor Threnix nodded sagely. "Earth will learn its place in the galactic order soon enough. Until then, we suggest you focus on internal development. Perhaps in a few thousand years you will be ready to sit at the adults' table." The chamber erupted in laughter again. Sarah noticed that even the usually neutral crystalline collective was flickering, with what she had learned indicated amusement among their kind. She reached into her jacket and withdrew a small device, placing it on the podium before her. The laughter slowly died as delegates realized she was activating some kind of transmitter. "This is Ambassador Chen to Earth Command," she said clearly. "Code 77 Alpha." An expectant hush fell over the chamber. Several delegates leaned forward, curious about this unexpected development. "Authorization confirmed," came a crisp voice from the device. "Standing by for orders, Ambassador." Sarah looked up at the assembled delegates one more time. Her expression was calm, almost serene. "You have made your position clear. Earth withdraws its diplomatic request." Chancellor Vexitar nodded approvingly. "A wise decision. Perhaps there is hope for humanity's maturation after all." "I wasn't finished," Sarah said quietly. "Earth withdraws its diplomatic request and formally declares that we will enforce our territorial claims through alternative means." The chamber fell silent. Admiral Zektos was the first to recover his voice. "Are you threatening military action against the entire Federation?" "I am informing this council that Earth considers this matter closed to further diplomatic discussion," Sarah replied. "What happens next is entirely up to you." She spoke into the transmitter again. "Implementation authorization 77 Alpha confirmed. Execute Operation Lighthouse immediately." "Acknowledged. Operation Lighthouse is now active. Good luck, Ambassador." As the device powered down, nervous murmurs began spreading through the chamber. High Counselor Threnix raised his voice. "Ambassador, I strongly advise against any rash action. Earth's military situation has not changed simply because you have left these chambers." Sarah smiled for the first time since arriving. It was not a pleasant expression. "Hasn't it?" The large display screens around the chamber suddenly activated, showing real-time tactical displays of the 17 disputed star systems. The delegates looked up with mild interest, expecting to see the handful of human survey ships they knew were stationed there. Instead, the screens showed something impossible. Where Federation intelligence had tracked 12 human vessels, the sensors now detected 12,000. Where there should have been empty space around the disputed worlds, massive formations of warships hung in perfect battle formation. The vessels themselves were unlike anything in Federation databases. Sleek, predatory shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Chancellor Vexitar was staring at his personal tactical display in confusion. This must be some kind of sensor error. Where did these ships come from?" Admiral Zektos was frantically checking his own readings. "Impossible! We have constant surveillance on all human shipyards. They cannot construct vessels at this rate." The Zephyrian delegate's optical array was spinning wildly as his artificial intelligence tried to process the data. "Computer analysis indicates these vessels are not constructed using any known Federation technology. Hull composition unknown, power signatures unknown, weapon systems unable to classify." On the screens, more formations were appearing, as if materializing from empty space. Massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything in the Federation's arsenal. Carrier vessels disgorging clouds of fighters that moved with inhuman precision. Support ships whose purpose could only be guessed at. Sarah watched the growing panic in the chamber with satisfaction. You assumed you knew everything about Earth's capabilities. You were wrong. The Corvin delegate's voice was barely a whisper. How many ships are there? Sarah consulted her own device. Current deployment shows approximately 400,000 vessels across the 17 systems. More are still arriving. 400,000? High Counselor Threnix had gone pale, his usual composure completely shattered. That's impossible. Our intelligence networks would have detected construction on that scale. Your intelligence networks, Sarah said calmly, never knew what to look for. On the screens, the human fleets were moving into final positions. The formations were beautiful in their precision, deadly in their obvious intent. Each disputed world was now surrounded by enough firepower to sterilize a star system. Admiral Zektos was shouting into his communicator. Get me tactical analysis on those vessels immediately. I want to know their capabilities, their weaknesses, everything. Sarah gathered her materials from the podium. Gentlemen, ladies, and beings of various classifications, Earth thanks you for this educational session. You have taught us exactly where we stand in the galactic community. She began walking toward the exit. Behind her, chaos was erupting as delegates frantically tried to contact their home fleets and governments. Wait! Chancellor Vextar called out. Ambassador, surely we can discuss this reasonably. Perhaps we were too hasty in our assessment of Earth's claims. Sarah paused at the chamber entrance but did not turn around. You had your chance for reasonable discussion. You chose mockery instead. Now you'll learn why that was a mistake. As the massive doors sealed behind her, the Grand Count Admiral Zektos paced the command deck of his flagship, the Vengeance of Dracos, his serpentine tail leaving scratch marks on the polished floor. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically at their stations, trying to make sense of the impossible data streaming in from the disputed systems. Report, he hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air thick with tension. Commander Thys looked up from her tactical console, her scaled features showing confusion. Admiral, our long-range sensors confirm the presence of massive human fleet concentrations in all 17 systems. However, our detailed scans are being interfered with. Interfered with how? The human vessels are generating some kind of sensor-dampening field. We can detect them, count them roughly, but we cannot analyze their specific capabilities or weaknesses. It's unlike any stealth technology in our databases. Zektos slammed his clawed fist against the nearest bulkhead. Impossible! The humans barely understand basic shield harmonics. They cannot have developed jamming this sophisticated. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on command ships of every major Federation power. The hegemony's Chancellor Vextar had summoned his greatest admirals to an emergency war council, while the Zephyrian Collective's artificial intelligences were running probability calculations that kept returning error messages. High Counselor Threnix stood in his private chambers aboard the Federation headquarters station, staring at a holographic display showing the 17 disputed systems. Each one glowed red with warnings of massive military buildup. His aide, a young Altarian diplomat named Kess, approached hesitantly. High Counselor, the Federation Navy is requesting permission to deploy reconnaissance probes to the human positions. Denied, Threnix said without taking his eyes from the display. Any aggressive action now could trigger a conflict we're not prepared for. Sir, with respect, how can they possibly be prepared for us? Even if their fleet numbers are accurate, they're still facing the combined might of 47 species. No single race has ever challenged the Federation directly. Threnix finally turned to look at his aide. That's exactly what worries me, Kess. Either the humans have lost their minds, or they know something we don't. The answer came sooner than expected. Commander Thiss's urgent voice cut through the tension on Zektos's bridge. Admiral, incoming transmission from the human fleet in System 7749 Alpha. They're requesting to speak with you directly. Put it through, Zektos ordered, straightening his command cape. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a human figure in a simple black uniform. The being appeared young by human standards, with dark hair and calm eyes that held no trace of fear. Admiral Zektos, the human said with a slight nod. I am Fleet Admiral Harrison, commanding the Sol Defense Force contingent in this system. I understand you've been trying to scan our vessels. Zektos drew himself to his full, imposing height. Human, you are in violation of 12 Federation military codes by deploying this fleet without authorization. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Harrison smiled slightly. I'm afraid that's not going to happen. These systems now belong to Earth, and we intend to keep them. However, I'm willing to offer you a demonstration of why resistance would be inadvisable. You dare threaten the Draconian Empire? Zektos's voice rose to a roar. I have 800 warships in this sector alone. Your pathetic technology cannot stand against us. Can't it? Harrison's expression remained maddeningly calm. Admiral, I'm going to send you some tactical data. I suggest you examine it carefully before making any decisions you might regret. The transmission ended abruptly. Seconds later, Commander Thiss called out in alarm. Admiral, we're receiving detailed scanner reports from the human position. They're showing us exactly what their ships can do. The main tactical display updated with information that made Zektos's blood run cold. The human vessels were equipped with weapons that made Federation technology look primitive, energy output readings that defied known physics, defensive systems that showed power levels comparable to small stars. But the most shocking revelation was the ship counts. What appeared to be 12,000 vessels in this system alone were actually components of a much larger force. Each ship was apparently a modular unit that could combine with others to form larger constructs. The tactical display showed how the seemingly separate vessels could link together into massive battle platforms. This can't be accurate, Commander Thiss whispered. According to this data, just one of their dreadnought formations has more firepower than our entire sector fleet. Zektos was studying the readings with growing dread. The power requirements alone. How are they generating energy on this scale? His answer came in the form of another transmission, this time from High Counselor Threnix himself. The ancient being's usually composed features showed clear signs of stress. Admiral Zektos, you are to maintain current position and make no aggressive moves against human forces. This order comes directly from the Emergency Council. High Counselor, surely we're not going to be intimidated by... Admiral, Threnix interrupted. We have just received intelligence reports from all 17 disputed systems. The humans have deployed nearly 500,000 vessels total. Our combined intelligence agencies estimate that Earth now possesses the largest military force in known galactic history. Zektos felt his knees weaken. 500,000? How is that possible? We don't know, but there's more. Admiral, the humans have just transmitted a message to every Federation member world simultaneously. I'm forwarding it to you now. The main screen switched to show a new figure, Ambassador Sarah Chen, but now she wore a military uniform instead of her diplomatic attire. She stood in what appeared to be a massive command center, with holographic displays showing star maps covering thousands of light years. To the governments and peoples of the Galactic Federation, she began, her voice carrying across space to billions of beings. Earlier today, Earth made a simple diplomatic request for recognition of our territorial claims. We were met with mockery, condescension, and threats. The camera pulled back slightly, revealing more of the command center. Thousands of human officers worked at control stations that displayed tactical information from across the galaxy. You assured us that Earth's military was pathetic, that our technology was primitive, that our 12,000 ships were no match for your mighty fleets. Sarah's expression hardened. You were partially correct. Earth's previously known fleet would indeed be no match for you. The display behind her shifted to show real-time images of the human deployments across all 17 systems. The assembled firepower was staggering in its scope. However, what you saw before today was never Earth's true military capability. It was what we allowed you to see. For the past 50 years, while you dismissed us as insignificant, we have been preparing for exactly this moment. On Zektos's bridge, the tactical officers were frantically cross-referencing the human fleet compositions with their databases. The results were uniformly alarming. "Admiral," Commander Thys called out, her voice tight with fear, "our computers cannot classify most of their vessel types. The power signatures suggest technology centuries beyond our current capabilities." Sarah continued her address. "Earth's true fleet operates on principles your science has not yet discovered. Our ships are built using manufacturing techniques that exist outside normal space-time. Our weapons draw power from sources you cannot detect. Our defenses operate on fundamental forces you have not learned to manipulate." The camera zoomed in on Sarah's face. "You mocked Earth at the Council. You declared that might makes right. Very well. Earth now possesses might beyond your comprehension. We accept your rules." Behind her, the star map display highlighted dozens of Federation worlds, including several major military installations and government centers. The 17 systems in question are now under Earth's protection. Any attempt to enter these systems without permission will be considered an act of war. Any attempt to harm human colonists or interfere with our operations will result in immediate retaliation. Zektos realized he was holding his breath. Around him, his bridge crew watched in stunned silence. "Earth does not seek conquest," Sarah continued. "We seek only what is rightfully ours under the laws you yourselves have established. But we will no longer accept being dismissed or threatened because we appear weak." The transmission showed brief clips of human vessels in action during what appeared to be training exercises. The destructive capabilities on display were beyond anything in Federation arsenals. To those who would test our resolve, remember this moment. Remember that you chose to judge Earth's capabilities by outdated information. Remember that you decided might makes right. Sarah's smile was cold as winter. "We are simply following the rules you established." The transmission ended with a final image, a view of Earth itself, looking peaceful and blue against the star field. But now that same image carried an entirely different meaning. On his flagship, Admiral Zektos stood in silence for long moments. Around him, his crew waited for orders that didn't come. Finally, Commander Thys spoke up hesitantly. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Zektos looked at the tactical display showing human fleet positions. The numbers were still growing as more vessels arrived from unknown locations. Whatever Earth had been hiding, it was far beyond anything the Federation had imagined possible. "Send a message to High Command." He say 3 days had passed since the revelation of Earth's true military might, and the galaxy was in chaos. Emergency sessions convened on every major Federation world as governments struggled to comprehend the new reality. Trade routes had been quietly rerouted to avoid human-controlled space, and military commanders across dozens of species found themselves analyzing tactical scenarios they had never imagined possible. High Counselor Threnix sat in his private office, surrounded by reports from intelligence agencies, military advisors, and diplomatic corps representatives. Each document painted the same disturbing picture. Earth's technological capabilities were not only real, but potentially decades ahead of anything the Federation possessed. Ambassador Sarah Chen had requested a private meeting, And despite every instinct telling him to refuse, Threnix knew the Federation needed answers. When she arrived, she appeared exactly as composed as she had 3 days earlier, showing no sign of the stress that was consuming every other leader in the galaxy. "Hi, Counselor," Sarah said, taking her seat across from his desk. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." "Ambassador," Threnix replied carefully, "I believe congratulations are in order. Earth has certainly made its point." Sarah smiled slightly. "Has it? Because our intelligence networks suggest several Federation members are still discussing military options. Admiral Corvin of the Hegemony has been particularly vocal about organizing a coalition response. The fact that Earth knew about secret Federation military discussions sent another chill through Threnix. Our member species are understandably concerned about the sudden shift in galactic power balance. Understandable, Sarah agreed, but unnecessary. Earth has no territorial ambitions beyond what we've already claimed. We simply want to be treated as equals, rather than curiosities. Threnix leaned forward. "Ambassador, I must ask the obvious question. How? Our intelligence networks had detailed information about every Earth shipyard, every construction facility, every research installation. How did you build a fleet this size without our knowledge?" Sarah was quiet for a moment, appearing to consider how much to reveal. "Hi, Counselor. What do you know about human industrial philosophy?" "I'm not sure I understand the question. When most species develop spacefaring capability, they follow similar patterns. Large, centralized shipyards, massive construction facilities, orbital industrial complexes. It's efficient and logical." Sarah paused. Humans took a different approach. She activated a small holographic projector, displaying what appeared to be empty space. "This is the Kuiper Belt region of Earth's solar system. To your sensors, it appears to contain nothing but ice and rock." The image shifted, and suddenly the empty space was filled with activity. Massive construction platforms, manufacturing facilities, and completed warships floated among what had appeared to be ordinary asteroids and comets. Humans excel at hiding things in plain sight. Every piece of space debris in our system, every asteroid, every comet, they're all potential construction sites. We don't build ships in obvious shipyards. We grow them inside hollowed-out rocks, construct them in artificial caverns carved into the sides of mountains, assemble them in underground facilities that exist in dimensions your physics hasn't discovered yet. Threnix stared at the hologram in disbelief. The energy signatures alone should have been detectable. "Should have been," Sarah agreed. "But human engineering operates on different principles. We learned early that if we wanted to survive in a galaxy full of more powerful civilizations, we needed to become very good at appearing harmless while building strength." The hologram changed again, showing technical schematics that made Threnix's head spin. The ship designs incorporated technologies he didn't recognize, power systems that seemed to violate conservation of energy, and weapons that drew their destructive force from sources he couldn't identify. "For 50 years, we've been reverse engineering every piece of technology we could get our hands on. Federation trade ships, abandoned weapons platforms, crashed vessels from ancient conflicts. We studied it all, improved it all, and then developed manufacturing techniques that your species consider impossible." This level of technological advancement, Threnix struggled to find words. It would require research programs spanning centuries. The computational power alone. Sarah's smile widened. "Hi, Counselor. Humans have been connected by global information networks for over 2 centuries. Every human mind can contribute to research projects. We don't have separate, competing research institutions like other species. We have 8 billion minds working as components of larger research networks." The implications hit Threnix like a physical blow. While other species had centralized research, with small teams of specialists working on classified projects, humans had somehow managed to turn their entire population into a single, massive research and development organization. The ships you see in our fleets, Sarah continued, represent the combined intellectual output of our entire species. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every discovery has been shared and improved upon by billions of minds working in parallel. Threnix finally understood the scope of what the Federation was facing. It wasn't just that Earth had more ships. They had fundamentally different approach to technology development that made their capabilities essentially unlimited. But the numbers, he said weakly, 500,000 ships. The material requirements alone are trivial when you have access to the industrial capacity of an entire stellar system, Sarah finished. Humans don't just mine asteroids, High Counselor. We convert them entirely into raw materials. We disassemble moons, restructure gas giant atmospheres, and process solar energy on scales your economics consider impossible. The hologram showed the Sol system as it truly existed. Not a single inhabited world with a few mining stations, but an entire stellar system converted into a massive industrial complex. Every planet, moon, and asteroid had been integrated into production networks that dwarfed anything the Federation had imagined. Your intelligence services saw what we wanted you to see, Sarah explained. A small, struggling species trying to build a modest space presence. In reality, we've spent 2 centuries preparing for the day when we would no longer be able to hide. Threnix felt ancient beyond his years. And that day is now? That day was 3 days ago, when the Federation made it clear that diplomatic solutions were not available to Earth. You forced us to reveal ourselves. A new voice interrupted their conversation. Threnix's aide, Kess, burst through the office doors without announcement, his usually composed demeanor completely shattered. High Counselor, emergency reports from the frontier sectors, the human fleets, they're gone. Sarah and Threnix both turned to look at the young diplomat. Gone? Threnix demanded. What do you mean, gone? Kess activated the room's main display, showing tactical readouts from all 17 disputed systems. Where massive human fleet concentrations had been visible just hours earlier, the sensors now showed empty space. Sir, every single human vessel has vanished. No energy signatures, no debris, no trace they were ever there. It's as if they never existed. Sarah checked her own communicator and nodded with satisfaction. Excellent timing. Threnix stared at her. You knew this was going to happen. Of course. The demonstration was complete. There was no need to maintain the deployment. But where did they go? Ships that size can't simply disappear. Sarah stood to leave. High Counselor, I told you that human technology operates on principles your science hasn't discovered. Our ships don't just move through space, they move through dimensions of space your physics doesn't recognize. She paused at the door. The Federation wanted to know Earth's true military capabilities. Now you know. We can deploy overwhelming force anywhere in the galaxy within hours, and we can withdraw that force just as quickly. We exist in your reality only when we choose to. Threnix felt the weight of absolute defeat settling on his shoulders. Earth hadn't just demonstrated superior firepower. They had revealed that humans operated on technological levels that made traditional military thinking obsolete. What happens now? He asked quietly. Now, Sarah said, the Federation recognizes Earth's territorial claims. Our colonies in the 17 systems continue their development unmolested. And most importantly, the next time a human ambassador speaks before the Federation Council, they are treated with the respect due to representatives of a major galactic power. She smiled one final time before leaving. After all, High Counselor, you established the rule that might makes right. Earth simply proved we have more might than you imagined possible. After she left, Threnix sat alone in his office, staring at the empty tactical displays. Around the galaxy, Federation military commanders were frantically trying to locate the missing human fleets, while intelligence agencies attempted to understand technology that seemed to belong to a different universe entirely. The age of dismissing humanity had ended not with conquest or destruction, but with a demonstration so overwhelming that resistance became unthinkable. Earth had revealed just enough of its capabilities to make the point that challenging them would be suicidal, while keeping the full extent of their technology carefully hidden. In the days that followed, the 17 disputed systems were formally recognized as Earth territory without a single dissenting vote in the Federation Council. Trade agreements were renegotiated to account for humanity's new status. Military alliance treaties were quietly updated to reflect the reality that Earth was now the dominant military power in known space. But perhaps most importantly, the mocking laughter that had filled the council chambers was replaced by a respectful silence whenever human ambassadors spoke. Earth had taught the galaxy a lesson about assumptions, underestimation, and the danger of judging others by their apparent weaknesses. The humans had been watching and preparing for decades, waiting for the day when they would no longer need to hide their true capabilities. When that day came, they had responded not with conquest or aggression, but with a demonstration of such overwhelming superiority that resistance became meaningless. As High Counselor Threnix filed his final reports on the incident, he included a personal recommendation that would influence Federation policy for generations to come. Never again assume that a species' apparent limitations reflect their actual capabilities, and never, under any circumstances, mock Earth at the Council. The galaxy had learned to take humanity seriously. The hard way, quietly. Inform them that Admiral Zektos recommends immediate withdrawal from this sector. We are outgunned and outmaneuvered. As his ship began to move away from the contested system, Zektos wondered how many other civilizations in the galaxy had made the same mistake his people had just made. How many had dismissed Earth as insignificant, only to discover that humans had been watching, waiting, and preparing for the day when diplomacy failed and force became necessary. The mocking laughter from the council chambers now seemed very far away and utterly foolish. Earth had just announced itself as the galaxy's new superpower, and they had done it with a demonstration of restraint that was somehow more terrifying than any show of aggression could have been. The humans were playing by Federation rules now. The question was whether the Federation was prepared for the consequences of those rules. IL erupted into pandemonium. On the screens above them, humanity's impossible fleet continued to grow, a dark promise hanging over 17 star systems that would no longer be discussed in diplomatic chambers. The age of dismissing Earth as a minor player had just ended with shocking suddenness, but the real surprises were yet to come.